Hey folks, good afternoon to some of you. Good morning to some of you. For those of you on the West Coast, my name is Randy Wilburn. I'm the Director of Executive Search here at Zweig Group. We are in sunny, or not really quite sunny, but we're in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and certainly excited to be with you today for this start of this webinar series. This will be the first of 6 sessions that we are going to do and basically take you through a boot camp of recruitment and retention between now and November 3rd. And so I'm honored to have had a hand in putting this together, even more excited to present it to you personally, and looking forward to what we get to do over the next couple of months. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started, and I'll tell you a little bit more about this program as we move through it. But again, welcome to Becoming a Better Recruiter. So one of the first things that I want to talk with you about, and just to kind of give you some preliminary understanding of how this is going to work, today is really an overview of the whole recruitment and retention process. I'm going to give you an outline for what it's going to look like over the 6 sessions. But basically, we are going to discuss and talk about a number of different aspects of the recruitment and retention process. We're going to focus first on just recruiting, relationships, and marketing. We're going to talk about how recruiting and marketing work hand in hand. Then we're going to talk about how you build a great place to work. What does that look like? Some of you may feel like you have an outstanding work environment, an outstanding work culture. We're certainly going to dive into that, but we're also going to give you some tips and some ways that you can improve upon what you currently have in place. Then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about the KPIs, or key performance indicators of a recruitment process. One of the things that I'm always amazed about is that, people really don't know their numbers when it comes to recruitment and retention. And it's more than just getting on the phone and recruiting somebody or going on LinkedIn and sending somebody an email. You want to have a full understanding of how long a position in your firm stays open. When a position is filled, how long does it take to bring it? How many people are you losing on the back end in terms of people leaving through, whether it's through leaving the company or whether they've been fired or anything along those lines, as well as what you normally need to grow your organization. We're going to talk about those key performance indicators and how you keep track of them. Then we're going to talk about offers. And we're going to talk about the interview process, not necessarily in that order, but we're going to spend time walking you through and discussing some of the questions you should be asking, some of the questions you shouldn't be asking, and actually, what is that one key question you should never ask a candidate in the interview process? And we'll certainly go over that. And then we're going to spend some time talking about social media. And we're going to walk you through the social media aspect of recruitment and retention, how you brand your company from a social media perspective to make it more attractive to other people that are outside of your firm. And then we're going to talk about mobile recruiting and what that looks like. A lot of firms don't have mobile recruiting even set up within their website. They don't have anything set up to be able to attract people that are on their phones doing looking for jobs. And so we're going to spend a lot of time going through that, diving deep in each of those areas over the next 6 sessions. And so I'm excited to have all of you here participating in this. The other thing I will say is that we are going to be recording these webinars, so I want you to make sure you take your time, take notes, ask questions. Just take your time and take all of this in. Don't feel like you've got to get it all done in 1 hour. You'll have a chance to come back over and watch this video again and again if you would like, and we'll just take it from there. So you shouldn't have a real problem with this, and it will be something that you can share with your colleagues. It will be something that you can refer back to, and we may even create a podcast of these webinar sessions so that we can put on our Zweig Group podcast on iTunes. So, we'll get the information out there. We'll make sure that we share it with everyone so that you guys are fully informed on how to improve the recruitment and retention issues that you may face at your current organization. So let's go ahead and get started. That's kind of like a preview of what you're going to see. And again, let's just go ahead and get started today in terms of what we're going to cover and just talk a little bit about some of the issues that we are facing here in the design industry. Becoming a better recruiter. Why are we teaching this webinar? That's the first thing that you want to ask yourself. I mean, the big thing is that talent acquisition and retention is one of the biggest challenges facing our industry today. We talk with clients all the time that that's all they want to know is where can we find good people. We're having a hard time finding individuals. If I could find X number of people, I would love to go ahead and bring them on board, but we're not afforded that luxury. And if you hear sirens in the background, it's because our organization is located on a busy thoroughfare here in Fayetteville, Arkansas. College Ave. For those of you, every now and then we get the local fire engine going up and down the street. So please just excuse that, and we'll move on. But again, we're teaching this webinar because we understand the difficulty that our industry faces in terms of hiring the best and brightest talent. I always tell people that there is a very finite source of people that are available in terms of educated engineers, educated architects, environmental consultants, planners, you name it, landscape architects. There is a very finite set of those resources that are available to firms. And so, you only have one bite at the apple in most cases. And so you want to certainly put your best foot forward when it comes to trying to attract this great talent to come work at your organization. And then on top of all that, how do you keep all those really good people that you currently have engaged and employed at your current organization, and you don't deal with the challenges that a lot of companies face because they're constantly losing good people? We want to help you avoid some of those things, and I hope that by participating in this webinar, you'll be able to do that. Another thing is I want you to understand that recruiting from a relational standpoint and not just a transactional one is how you should really focus on recruitment. A lot of times people say, well, I just need X, I just need Y, I just want another project engineer, I just want another project architect. But the reality is that we're dealing with human beings here. We're dealing with people. And the quicker you understand that building relationships will go a long way to furthering the effectiveness of your recruitment process, the quicker you understand that, the better off you'll be. And so we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about the importance of relationship building, how you build those relationships, why when you come in contact with individuals that work with peer firms, how you should engage them and talk with them and create rapport. It's very important, and sometimes and so I certainly want to encourage you to be thinking long and hard about that, and we'll spend some time discussing that. The next thing is that, for a lot of firms, intentional recruiting is an afterthought. You always have to be selling the opportunity to come work at your firm, whether it's through the residual material that is created on your website. That comes into the whole branding aspect of things in terms of making your place a very inviting place to work, and by showing off the people that are already there, that are happily employed at your firm, and why they're excited to be there. Capturing that message and sharing that message with the world is really important, and that's part of that intentionality that we talk about and discuss. And I can't encourage you more to be thinking about recruiting from a very intentional standpoint. And so when you think about that, you also think about just the relationship building that is part of that. Most design firms post job openings and leave it at that. It's like, you know what? I've got some positions. I've got to post some stuff on Indeed. Maybe I'll spend a little extra money and post something on LinkedIn. And man, if that were the solution, then I would certainly be out of business. Zweig would certainly not operate a very well-run executive search program. But the reality is that it takes more than just posting an ad. It takes what I said before, that intentionality. It takes getting out there in organizations so that people understand and know the type of firm that you are, the type of work that you do, and the type of opportunities that exist within your organization. So it's very important for you to kind of think of it from that perspective. So, the other thing is, another reason why we're teaching this webinar is that a lot of firms don't know their real performance numbers when it comes to hiring. That's something that we really want to do a deep dive on and really spend some time discussing the key performance indicators that help you determine whether or not your organization is healthy or whether it's sick when it comes to recruiting talent. If you've got challenges in terms of, it taking, 8 to 9 to 10 months to bring someone on board, then maybe there's a problem there. You want to look at historical data in your organization so that you can kind of determine what times of year are better for you in terms of hiring and recruiting people, because there's definitely some information that is available, some analytical information that will kind of help you have a better understanding of things. So we're going to spend a lot of time talking about that. Internal recruiting matters as much as external recruiting. And what I simply mean by that is that you have to constantly be engaging. You're already there. I tell clients all the time, one of the first things that you can do to make things to improve upon the state of affairs is to focus on the people that you already have, to make them feel wanted, to make them feel valuable, to show them that, hey, there is a natural progression in their job, that there is a natural order of things and a progression within the organization. If everybody sees that there's no real opportunity for promotion, why would they stay there in the first place? Ask yourself that question. It's very, very important for you as a leader in your organization to really take stock of how you're treating your current people and also understand what's important to them. One of the big things that we see in our industry is that there's not a lot of personal development that takes place within organizations. And one of the things that we see that provides an additional value point for your current employee is figuring out ways to develop them both professionally and personally. And we'll talk more about that. Firms are not willing to try new things when it comes to hiring and retaining talent. And I'm always telling clients that, you've got to kind of think outside of the box. And I know that may be an overused cliche, but the bottom line is you really do have to be very, you have to really think long and hard about what you want to do. And sometimes you need to try new things that maybe you've never done before. And, maybe these things cost you a little extra money. Maybe they don't cost you any extra money at all. It's just the effort that's required for you to kind of step out of your comfort zone and try something new. And so that is something that we're encouraging clients to do all the time. The challenge with the design industry is that you have an aging leadership population. And now you have all these millennials coming into the fold in terms of the workforce for the design industry. And the two, for some reason, just cannot really communicate with each other. And we're trying to help firms bridge that gap, that generational gap that exists, because we have a ton of older owners that just don't speak the language of the new workforce that's coming in, that's coming online. And so I think it's really important to figure out ways to separate yourself as a company when it comes to trying to reach this next crop of engineers and architects that are coming out of school. Otherwise, these guys are going to go elsewhere. They're going to go into alternative industries. They're going to go off and start their own business. I mean, let alone the whole gig economy, right, where people are just going to go off and be freelancers and not even work for one firm. If that happens for a lot of you guys that have not set yourselves up for that, for dealing with temporary employment, being able to hire people on a seasonal basis, which is coming, you're going to be there are going to be some challenges there, and it's going to be interesting to find out and to hear from some of you guys about some of the things that you're doing differently to attract this great talent. The other thing is, how do design firms recruit better? Well, again, we want to talk about recruiting, relationships, and marketing. A couple of years ago, it was mentioned that there is and I'm only going to use this word one time, there is a synergy between recruiting and marketing. And the two, for whatever reason, the two areas do sync up very nicely together. And when you think of marketing, you think of obviously, getting a message out there about your firm and about your organization and what you're all about. And there is a way to recruit where you not only are marketing your firm from the perspective of getting new work, but you're also marketing your firm from the perspective of identifying and finding new talent. And we're going to spend a lot of time talking about that. And then we're going to kind of, in between those two, is just the whole relationship context. What does that look like? How do you build these relationships in this industry? And so we'll spend some time discussing that and kind of going over some of the nuances of why relationships are so important and why you shouldn't discount, that young engineer or architect that you run into at a public meeting. And even if they do work for a competitor, why you should at least chat with them, get to know them better, because you just never know. They may be knocking on your door in a few years to come work with you because they like the way that you've engaged them. So we want to get people out of a one-dimensional mindset and get you really to start thinking about what these relationships really mean in this industry especially. One of the things that Mark Zweig has always said to me, and I love this quote, is that your job as a recruiter is not to keep bad people out, but rather to get good people coming in. One of the challenges with a quote-unquote HR mindset is that a lot of times, from a human resource perspective, there is a lot of loss mitigation going on. There are a lot of efforts that HR people take to avoid running into any legal challenges or issues. And one of the things that I say to all HR managers, and again, please hear me very clearly, HR managers are your friends, and they're my friends, and I love talking with them. Some HR people deal with things from a recruitment perspective as if they are a gatekeeper of sorts. And that's kind of the wrong mentality to take when dealing with recruitment, especially in this industry. The idea is that you should really figure out a way to keep the best people coming through the doors as often as possible. Because a lot of times, if you take the other approach by being a gatekeeper of sorts, you end up losing out on some really talented people that really just don't want to put up with a whole lot of shenanigans or maybe a whole lot of hoops that they have to jump through just to be considered for an opportunity. And we'll spend some time talking about people that are looking for a job versus people that are gainfully employed and are just open to hearing about an opportunity. There is a huge difference between those two types of individuals, and we'll talk more about that. So, when you ask yourself, what is recruiting? I've been struggling with a good definition of this. I mean, of course, you have Webster's definition of recruiting, and, there are a lot of other entities out there, but I went back and forth with Mark Zweig, spending some time on recruiting and the importance of it. And this is the definition that we came up with, that recruiting is getting the right people at the right time into the right role. It's an art as much as a science. And I mean, I could go on and on about what is recruiting, but this is, to me, captures the essence of what it's all about. You're constantly looking to find the right people. It's always a timing issue when it comes to recruiting. And of course, there's always the opportunistic part of it with regard to a position being available. And then, when you look at recruiting, there's a lot that you can do on a regular basis to make sure that you're recruiting properly. And you have to be creative when it comes to recruiting and how you reach out to people. And then there are some truisms in recruiting that are always going to be there in terms of always staying in touch with people, reaching out to people on a regular basis, making contact, building relationships, and communicating with these individuals. And we're gonna kind of delve deeper into this. But this right here is one of the best definitions that I've seen for what recruiting really is. And I would love your feedback on what you think about that. So, getting back to the first section that we're talking about, which is recruiting. Recruiting is all about relationships. When you think of recruiting, it's got to be a long-term process. You can't be in it for, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. It doesn't work that way. You've got to think of the long term. If you think about recruiting from a long-term perspective, it can pay off handsomely. You have to learn to give as much as you get. That example that I gave earlier about, you as a senior leader in your organization, maybe running into somebody at a public meeting and talking to a young engineer or architect, maybe taking them under your wing, maybe mentoring them a little bit, asking them how things are going, what are some of the challenges that they're experiencing within their job. You're not stealing anybody from another firm, but you are engaging somebody at a level where there could be a great amount of appreciation just because you took the time to talk with that individual. And so that's why also, I think, giving as much as you get is important. These relationships are important both internally between HR and the hiring managers, which has to be a symbiotic relationship, right? When you think of HR and hiring managers, these two have to work together very well. And it's also a relationship externally between your firm and the available talent pool. And then also, the thing that you have to remember at all times is that people want to work with people they like. If I don't like you, I'm not going to work with you. That goes for a client as well as someone that might work with me in the company. It's important. Just think of it that way. If people really like you, even if there are some challenges or some hurdles they may have to overcome to work with you, they may overlook those hurdles or challenges or just jump over them and come work with you because they actually like you. And, I'm here to say that people work with people that they like. And generally, if people are working at a place where they don't like the people that they're working with, they're usually not there for the long-term basis. And then the other thing is you want to hire for character and train for skills. Skills can be taught. People can learn. There's so much tutoring out there. There's so much education available. But when you find an ethical individual that's not going to stab you in the back, that's not going to lie to your face, that's going to come in and give you an honest day's work each and every day, those people are like gold. You want to hire for character and train for skill. A lot of times I've talked to clients that have said, I brought so-and-so in, they were this outstanding engineer, but this guy, he just could never come in on time. She could never do this or never do that. These are all issues that you need to be fully aware of. And so, we really want to encourage firms to take the time to hire high character individuals. It will save your bacon in the future. And then you also have to be thinking about this simple fact, that if things aren't working out with a candidate that you brought on board, you've got to be willing to cut bait and move on. If you're not willing to cut people from the team, then you run the risk of creating a poison well situation. I've learned personally that one bad apple can spoil the whole bunch. And you don't want to have to replace all your apples in a bushel. You want to, if you have a bad apple, get rid of it right away and move on. There's always going to be somebody else out there that you can move into the team that will really want to be a part of what you're building. Recruiting is also selling. It's kind of like Boiler Room, always be closing, or was that Glengarry, Glenn Ross, I think, ABC? Yeah, I think that's what it was. But you get the idea. You want to constantly be selling opportunities. You have to create openings to fill, which means you have to go out there and get new work. When you get new work, you have a need. If you don't have enough people on staff, then you ultimately have a need to hire more people to be able to fulfill the work that you have because you don't have the capacity to fill it currently. You need to create attraction-based job descriptions, no matter where you are in the country or in the world for that matter. I understand maybe we have some people on from down under, so I just want to say hello to you guys down there. But regardless of where you are, I don't care where you are, these old time and old style job descriptions, they have to go, folks. You need to start really creating job descriptions that are attractive to the individual reading them. Think about how you would react to some of the job descriptions that you put out there. Some of you would be like, this is really not that engaging for me. This is not exciting for me. Well, what do you think the population thinks when they read your job descriptions? So one of the things that we do with our clients is we create attractive-based job descriptions that really go into the nuances that make a place special. I'll give you a quick example and then we'll move on. But when we talk about this further during this session, we'll show you some examples of what an attraction-based job description looks like. But here in Fayetteville, we're ranked, U.S. News and World Report gave us a ranking of top 4 or top 5 cities in the country in terms of just quality of life and everything. And then I guess we were also the #1 most affordable city to live in. If your company has any information like that about the location where a job is, you need to highlight that in addition to all the requirements that you need for this potential candidate. We get all of that. We know that you need a PE. We know that you need a licensed architect with NCARB. We know that maybe you want someone that's a lead professional. All that's great. But you need to really think about the whole picture, because that's what the candidate is looking at. They're not just looking at the job, they're looking at the total opportunity. So you want to create attraction-based job descriptions. You have to have the right people meeting with candidates. This is something I can't stress enough. It's very important to put the right people in front of candidates. If a hiring manager is not very strong when it comes to relating to potential employees, you need to work with them. I mean, they can learn the skills necessary to be better hiring managers, to understand the right questions to ask, to know how to treat people. These things can go a long way in helping your firm. You want to consolidate your recruiting efforts with one or two people. This is really essential, and it's something that that we see firms don't do. Obviously, it doesn't make sense to spread it around to everyone. That's just not an efficient model. I always use the example of bringing a person in front of 12 people to interview. That's like the biggest no-no in the world. It just doesn't work. And imagine if someone did that to you. Would you want to be before this star chamber-like group of people being interviewed for a position? It just doesn't work. And then recruiting is a separate function that is separate and distinct from HR. And again, this is not to knock my HR people, but treat the recruiting apparatus and recruiting function for what it is. It is a separate function. It is distinct from the HR method of handling business internally for the organization. The minute that you do that and you get better control of your recruiting apparatus in your organization, the better off you'll be. Doesn't mean that HR and recruiting doesn't work together. Doesn't even mean that HR doesn't even manage the recruitment process, but it's just understanding that you don't just treat recruiting as just some aspect of human resources. It's really not. It is a separate function. We have a survey that we did recently. It's the 2016 Recruitment and Retention Survey that Zweig put out. We put a number of surveys out across the board for the design industry. This is a very interesting survey, and it's very timely, especially for those that are dealing with challenges in the industry with regard to recruitment and retention. One of the statistics, and I'll share more throughout this webinar, but one of the statistics that we found was that the majority of respondents to the survey, 24%, said the candidate pool was the biggest obstacle to finding qualified candidates. This is what we've been saying all day long. That finding good people is not easy. And it's really incumbent upon you to always put your best foot forward, because you may only get one bite at the apple. But these statistics, as I share more with you, are kind of eye-opening for the design industry. This is not tech. I mean, it's not like there's a bunch of Java and Python and, Ruby developers out there that you can choose from all over the world for that matter. You just don't have that luxury when you need to hire a good project engineer, site developer, project architect, a landscape architect, environmental planner. I mean, it just, there's only a handful of those guys out there, and you want to always be putting your best foot forward when doing that. The other aspect that we're going to talk about, and I think it's really important, is making your firm a great place to work. Through this session that we're going to spend time on when we do the webinar, we're going to go deep on what your firm is doing currently, things that could be improved upon, some best practices that we've seen in the design industry in terms of how firms have set themselves apart from everybody else. We're going to walk you through ways to improve the workflow, the work environment. We're going to talk about things like remote work. We're going to discuss issues like personal and professional development and how you can improve, and some simple improvements and hacks in those areas can really make your place a very inviting place to work. A great place to work is a place where the owners and managers are committed to growing, right? I mean, people want to work with people that are successful and that are committed to being successful for the long term. A great place to work is not a place where people are obsessed with maintaining control over everything. I don't know about you, but I hate micromanagement. I don't do it with my team, and I certainly encourage other companies and other firms and other hiring managers and individuals to not do it with the people that they're working with. It doesn't pay off in the long run. And, a great place to work is not a place that just focuses on pay and benefits. I wish it were just all about the money. Sometimes, every now and then, you run across that with a candidate, but more often than not, it's the totality of the opportunity that a candidate is looking at. And so a great place to work is more than just how much you're going to pay somebody at the end of the day and, how many weeks off of vacation that they're going to get. Those things do matter, but there are so many other things that you have to think about. A great place to work offers tremendous opportunities to all of, meaning that it's just not the guys in the corner office that are getting all the benefits and all the bonuses, but that things are being shared across the board. Because then when you create a much more positive work environment that way, everybody buys in and drinks the Kool-Aid, if you will, of your organization and why everybody needs people to make a sacrifice and to go hard so that you can achieve the objectives that you've laid out for the company. A great place to work is a place with great pay and benefits and the ability to recognize and reward excellence even before an annual review happens. One of the things that we do here, even at Zweig Group, is that we don't wait till December to give somebody a review and just tell them, hey, you're doing great. Here's your 1.5% or 2 or 3% increase in salary. We give people spot increases in salary on a regular basis, and we've encouraged other clients to do so. We've met with a lot of front companies that we've got to see our position from this standpoint, and so I think it's very important to kind of take stock of how you reward your people. And if everybody's waiting till December to be told attaboy or attagirl, especially after maybe they brought in some serious work in February and now they've got to wait 10 months to be told that, that's not really a good practice. And so we're going to walk you through thinking that through and maybe figuring out a way that you can change that, even if it's just something that you do on a quarterly basis. As I said here at Zweig, there is no rhyme or reason. I don't have a calendar that I follow in terms of when I give somebody a pay raise. It's just based on how people are performing and the impact that they're making to the bottom line, and also just the quality individual that they are. All of that plays into when someone gets a pay increase here, as well as in several other firms that we've run across that are doing that and are not waiting to December to give somebody that quote unquote salary increase. About surveyed 65% give raises through a formal salary wage review process. And this statistic from this survey basically tells us that 2/3 of you guys out there follow that standard format of giving salary wage reviews, once a year annually. And so, we have the statistics to back up what we're talking about. But what we're saying is that sometimes you have to think outside of the box and try some different things. And that may be something that you think about changing within your organization. We'll give you more of the tools to work with when it comes to that when we discuss, making your firm a great place to work. Almost 2/3 of the firm, 65%, offer referral bonuses. Now, the caveat here is that Mark Zweig is not a huge fan of these. Mark's been in this industry for over 35 years. He cut his teeth in the recruitment-related field in the design industry when he got out, once he received his MBA, and he has had a lot of experience in this area. And historically, giving referral bonuses within an organization has not always been a good thing, and there are a number of reasons why, and we'll go into them in depth when we discuss making your firm a great place to work on the seminar. 3/4 of firms, 75%, offer tuition and fee reimbursement. This is something that I do want to spend some time on. I won't do it today, but when we talk about making a firm a great place to work, one of the things that we're going to talk about is how you retain good people. And one way to retain good people is to create some alternative benefits for them, like possibly paying an employee's student loans. The average student loan balance in this country is $35,000. That is a lot of money. For a lot of students, and some of you maybe even watching this right now, you may have up to 6 figures or more of student loans. And I understand that it's expensive and it costs money to go to school. And so, we've got some unique ideas and thoughts And there are some new practices lately that have been taking place in major Fortune 500 firms where they are actively maintaining and retaining good talent by offering to pay a portion or all of their student loans. And so it's an exciting topic. It's a great benefit, and it's something that is a way to build a loyal employment base. And so we'll talk more about that during that particular webinar. So the next section that we're going to knowing your numbers in terms of recruiting KPIs, and I would love to get deep into this because I love analytics. It's just something that I really get excited about because, again, the numbers really never lie. I know it's a show on ESPN or whatever, but the numbers really don't lie. When you look at recruiting numbers and how long it takes for you to find an individual, how long it takes for you to hire them, and how long it takes for them to accept and join your company. All of this information or numbers you need to know off the top of your head. You need to know what the cost per hire is to acquire each and every individual that you acquire. And you also need to figure out and come up with a way to determine what is the opportunity cost per hire, so that if you don't hire a particular individual, how much does your company actually lose? And I know a lot of you saying, well, Randy, how can you quite figure that out? You know, I don't know that there is an equation out there to do that. Well, we've attempted and come up with some ways, rudimentary ways for you to figure out whether or not you are on point with regard to the offer that you make, and whether it's going to work out for your candidate. So then that's something that we're certainly going to spend time on, and we're going to make sure that your cost per hire is in line with your organization's requirements, and we'll show you ways to bring that cost per hire down much lower than maybe where it is right now. So knowing your numbers is important. There's a quote that came up, and I think Einstein said this, but if you don't measure what you do, how do you know if it's working? You have to measure the success of your recruitment efforts within your organization. If you don't do that, you really run the risk of flying blindly, and I can't tell you how dangerous that is. A good recruitment program keeps track of all the statistics related to talent acquisition and analytics. How many candidates do we have on every job opening? How long does it take to fill a position in days? What is our cost for advertising, online, newspaper? What is our cost for employment fees? All of these are numbers that you need to know. And then just to kind of go back at your office, and I'll just leave this up there for a second, but just in terms of a simple cost per hire, the equation looks as such. You have external costs, which if you use an outside recruiter to work on your behalf to find individuals, those would be costs that are factored in there. You've got internal costs, which may be traveling back and forth to go to an event where you market your firm to young people coming out of college, whether it's a career fair or something like that. All of these costs need to be factored in to figuring out how much it really costs you to acquire each and every individual that you bring on board. And all of that is a collective approach. Now, you can do it two ways. You can do it where you focus just on your internal costs, where you don't include external cost of hiring an external recruiter in terms of what your cost per hire is based on the total number of people that you hired in a determined time period. But then you can also do the totality of it in terms of people that you hire to bring on new people, and then people that you hire on your own. And when you add all of that up and then you divide it by the number of people that you hire in a period of time, you can determine what your actual cost per hire is. These numbers are very, very important, and we're going to help you become better at getting those numbers and understanding what they mean. Now, the next section is one of my favorite topics to discuss as well, which is successful interviews and great offers. And at the end of the day, it's fine if you are able to go out and find good people, but if you can't close the deal, then it's all for naught. And I really want to make sure that we take time to encourage you to take a close look at your interview process. Maybe it needs to be fixed. Maybe it needs to be totally overhauled. If that's you, then this session is really going to help you to kind of fine-tune things and really take stock of what you're doing and maybe how you can improve the situation. The other thing is that, are you making the best offers possible? Are your offers competitive with the offers that are going out by some of your peers? Are you really, taking the time to, have the counteroffer discussion with the candidate? I can't tell you how big of an issue it is nowadays that firms don't want to be caught blindsided when someone comes to them and turns in their 2-week notice. That's why people are pretty much doing whatever it takes to keep employees on board, even if in the back of their minds they're going to ultimately get rid of that person somewhere down the line because a level of trust has been broken. Some loyalty has eroded with that particular employee because they have forced their employer's hand, and now they have given them a counteroffer to match an offer that they've gotten from another firm down the street. So it's really important to make sure that you set yourself up for success in this area, and we'll kind of talk about counteroffer scripts and what they look like and how you make sure you talk to each and every candidate that you recruit on behalf of your organization and that you have this conversation with it. Don't leave it to chance. Don't just hope that, oh, well, we sold them on this opportunity here, and I don't know how they could even consider staying at their current firm. I can't tell you how often, we become very quickly disappointed by the results that we get when people come up and call us and say, hey, you really made a great offer to me. Thank you so much. I've actually decided to stay with my current employer. It happens all the time. And we're going to help you avoid that issue coming up. We're going to walk you through the process of how to make sure you engage an individual from that perspective. So that is that 1 hour session is really going to be jam-packed with great information. And, just to give you a further glance into that particular session, here's one statistic that stands out. 47% of the firms that we surveyed for this recruitment and retention survey say that it takes 30 to 60 days on average to hire a candidate after making them an offer. Very important information, again, that goes into those analytics that we talked about earlier. You need to know this information. But here are a couple of questions not to ask during the interview process. What's your background? What's your biggest weakness? What's your salary history? Do you think you can handle this workload? If I offered you the job, would you accept it? And why do you want to leave your present firm? Now, that last one is one of my favorite questions asked because a lot of companies ask this particular question. And it's one of the first things that comes out of a client's mouth. And I'm always cringing when I hear about this because the reality is that it's one of the worst questions that you can ask. And we'll go into great detail during this session to kind of show you why that's not a good question to ask a potential person that you want to hire on your team. I know a lot of you are sitting there, well, Randy, we want to know now. And I can't just reveal everything to you right away. But the bottom line is obviously we really want you to participate in all these webinars. And did I mention, by the way, and as a side note, you get continuing education credit for each seminar that you participate in. So you can get up to 6 CEUs for participating in this Becoming a Better Recruiter webinar series. So I really want to encourage you to be on for each and every one of these and tell your friends about it. Those that you know within your organization that could benefit from this, as well as any of your peers that you know outside the organization. This program will really help you out. But we'll go into depth as to why asking the question, why do you want to leave your present firm, isn't the good question to ask. And we'll give you some better questions to ask potential candidates that you want to hire. Some illegal questions not to ask during the interview process. Of course, we want to look at it, and I know HR people will appreciate this. We want to make sure that any of the hiring managers that are tasked with talking to potential employees are asking the right questions, not asking the wrong questions, and are certainly not asking illegal questions. So a couple of illegal questions that I can think of are, what is your religious affiliation? Are you pregnant? What is your ethnicity? How old are you? Are you disabled? Are you married? Do you have children or plan to? Are you in debt? Do you socially drink or smoke? I mean, these are some of the biggest no-no questions that you could ever ask in an interview process, and we certainly want to encourage you not to be asking these questions. We're going to spend some time going in mobile recruiting. Every one of you has a cell phone. every one of you has I would hope has a smartphone, unless you have something like a Jitterbug or something like that, which is one of those older phones with the big keys. I mean, my mother has one of those. And if you do have one, I'm not joking on you. I'm kind of being facetious. The bottom line is smartphones are the future. More and more people are interacting with companies and interacting with individuals from their smartphone than they are at their desktop at home or at their desktop on their job. You have to understand that the smartphone is the wave of the future when it comes to interacting with people. People want to find out about jobs, be able to apply. People are doing it now, but they're only doing it on websites that allow them to. Most of you guys and a lot of the people in the design industry that have websites that have job postings don't have mobile-friendly postings. And we're going to talk a lot about how you improve in that area and how you make your job postings mobile-friendly and how you create portals that individuals can go to so that if they see a job that's really interests them at your firm and organization, they can then go ahead and take their mobile phone and apply for the job right then and there. Why wait till you get home? Why wait till you get back to your job to apply for another job? You can do it right there on your lunch break. And if you're a firm that is forward thinking in this area, you will adopt some of the changes that we're going to discuss because it will be a huge benefit to you. And then the other side of it is the social media piece that we're certainly going to talk about. And I can't tell you, I always laugh when people say, yeah, we're on social media. And then I look at their Twitter account and the last posting was from 2013. That's hilarious, folks. This is 2016. Folks are so engaged now, especially this young millennial group, that you are so far behind the eight ball when you are not having dialogue with people through social media from your company. We do it here at Zweig. We talk to people through Twitter, through Facebook, our website, of course. But just having a website is not enough. And we're going to talk about why and how you can leverage yourself from a recruitment and retention standpoint on all of these different portals that are out there. Now look at this statistic. I'll share that with you in a second. Using social media and mobile access to your firm before and after the hire. We'll talk about that. We'll show you how you can use your job, age potential candidates. 74% of internet users have at least one active social media account. Instagram, Google+, you name it. 74% of all internet users have at least one active social media account. We will show you how to export your firm's culture via social media. I think this is another important webinar because it kind of gets you to kind of think about things differently, at it, what other industries are doing when it comes to leveraging social media and mobile recruiting. This is the statistic that I was going to bring up. LinkedIn is the most popular recruiting site with 71% of respondents in the design industry that responded to our 2016 recruitment and retention survey that reported that they use LinkedIn. 10%. 7 out of 10 people are using LinkedIn. Do you have a presence on LinkedIn? What does it look like? What kind of conversation having on LinkedIn? These are all important. We're going to ask and that we're going to go over, and I'm going to give you some homework to do to kind of think this. And back each time we do a webinar, we're going to do some things that you can take back to your office to work on and to do, and the conversation offline. You'll have our contact information, but we're also going to create a larger conversation in this for everybody that participates online. So again, the hashtag that you're going to use is hashtag BBR webinar and the hashtag Zweig Group. Using those together will be great. But if you use nothing else, use BBR webinar as a hashtag when sending out questions, and we will certainly discuss and create some dialogue around some of the issues that even some of you guys are dealing with, because we want to make sure that everybody walks away on November 3rd with some really actionable information. Actually, by November 3rd, because of the way that we staggered this webinar series, you will probably have implemented some of the early webinars, numbers 2 and 3 and 4, so that by the time you get to webinar 6 and we're discussing social media, everything else will be in place and you'll be able to have it. And it'll be a great way for you to finish out 2016 before you get ready for 2017. It's just really, really important. Now, as I promised, I was going to finish as early as I could Q&A. I know there may be some questions that some of you have about this process. If we don't get to your question now, please make sure you send it to me. I'll give you my email at the end. Discuss that matter. Somebody asked about the certificate program, and it will be available under event resources in the menu on the left. There is a menu on the left in terms of, it says event resources. You will be able to get the certificate in this event. One question, let's first, I'm a recruiter. That's what I do. I work with firms that have hiring managers. Hiring managers work directly with the candidate. They will interview them as recruiters, but the hiring manager of a company will interview the individual, will talk with them. And as recruiters, as an external recruiter, we are kind of like that first line, and we vet them, we take them through the process, we ask a lot of questions, because then we turn them over to a hiring manager, and that hiring manager is the one that goes ahead and internally introduces them to the company from their perspective, and then really determines if they're going to be a fit for the position that's open. So that's kind of the difference between a recruiter and a hiring manager. A good hiring manager is, in a sense, a recruiter of sorts, but especially if a firm is using external recruiters, they're really two separate functions. And who can be a hiring manager? I think anybody that the firm entrusts with that responsibility and opportunity. That's actually a good question about who can be a hiring manager. People that are sure of themselves, that are very comfortable in the process of engaging with people, not someone that talks like this and doesn't look at you and is not really engaging. I mean, you just don't want that person in front of potential candidates that you want to hire. Remember what I said. There is a very finite pool of people out there. A lot of times you only get one bite at the apple. Put your best foot forward and put the best hiring managers in front of if managers currently that just are not good at recruiting when it comes to engaging the candidate. We can help them out with that. We can give you some tips, some tricks, some tools with which to improve upon that. But a lot of it is just being able to communicate effectively, and there are a lot of ways there are a lot of things that you can do to improve from that perspective. And I don't believe anyone is stuck as far as that's concerned, unless you just don't like people or you just don't like talking. And if that's the case, then being a hiring manager could potentially be a problem. If you are what I call a subject matter or discipline expert, but you're not necessarily a really good hiring manager, you may need to team up with someone that can well, and then you will vet that person from a discipline standpoint and have the other one engage them from a more social position. What can be done to improve or enlarge the talent? You have to cast. That's an easy question. I mean, you have to cast as wide a net as possible. And for some of you that are out there that are saying, look, an individual, these people, they don't, we have to find local, understand our area. You know, they'll never be able to, they won't be able to do the job. I understand that may be true in some instances, but in a lot of others, we're finding clients that are, we're relocating people from halfway across the country for opportunities. So relocation as a possibility. And we'll talk a little bit about that and how you set up a good relocation program. But it's really not that difficult. But nowadays, it's just part of the cost of doing business, and that relocation expense is part of that cost per hire. Another question that somebody's asking, and I keep looking to my left because the questions are being posted, how can I teach all hiring managers to sell the firm better? Well, that's a good question. There are a number of things. You could hire us, of course, and we can help those guys become super sellers and show them how to always be closing the opportunity. You can, kind of walk them through, first of all, you want to look at the process that you currently are operating in, what you're currently doing as hiring managers, what are the pain points that your hiring managers are currently dealing with, and what are some of the limitations that you guys find. And then from there, we would go ahead and kind of create a system or a program that they could follow. Something should not be, right? Because, candidates need to understand, they need to really hear. They don't need the whole time, but there are counter offers that we could set you up with to help you follow that, to make sure that your people are constantly following a certain process when it comes to interviewing and engaging potential candidates. Any advice for job seekers? Does Zweig have rewarding to work for a firm with good character? Absolutely. We actually have a program that is coming online in the very near future that we will make available. And your resume with us, we would be more than happy to look at opportunities that might be available to you and certainly discuss that. Again, there are ways to set yourself apart from the rest of the competition out there and make yourself attractive to firms, and I can certainly help you with that information. My information we'll share at the end of this webinar, and you can reach out to me and we can talk offline. Another question came in from Nicholas. Do you have any advice for job seekers to Zweig? Oh, that was the question. Okay, so that was great. So Nicholas, reach out to me at the end, and we'll certainly talk. Are there any interview or tips or tricks that seem more successful? I think in terms of interview tips and tricks, I think it's really, trying to engage a candidate where they are and not necessarily try to interview process. Again, I can't tell you. I'm going to share when we do that section. I'm going to share with you some we've run into statements make. But yes, there are. Just a simple tip with regard to the interview process is to be ever present in the interview. I can't tell you how often we've heard from candidates with the simple fact that, I met with the hiring manager, but it seemed like they were here, there, and everywhere. They were talking to me, but they were also they were doing something else. When you meet with a potential candidate, a potential employee, someone that's going to either work for you or work for your firm, you need to be present 100%. If you can't be, you need to reschedule your appointment. The other tip that I would give is that when you are presented with a candidate that looks really good, don't delay getting in. A lot of times we tell our hiring that we deal with the individual, we've already pre-vetted them. They fit the culture of your organization based on our synopsis and understanding of this person. You need to get on the phone with this person and have a conversation. Don't be afraid to have a conversation. Even have a full resume, and you just have a profile of the person. Maybe even profile. Just think about some of the specific questions that you would ask a candidate and just have a conversation. You don't need to go through this whole process of, I got to have 8 sheets of paper in front of me before I interview somebody. A load of malarkey. I don't know why I use that word, but anyway, that's a load of crap. You don't need say, and all this project information for you to have a simple conversation with the candidate. And sometimes that simple conversation will tell you right that you want to physically bring into your office. And so that's one tip right there. Have a conversation. Don't be afraid to have a conversation with somebody without the full onset or complement of information at your disposal. With LinkedIn, for most of us out there, we're all on LinkedIn, and with websites and Google being what it is, you can do some basic tweaking with a recruiter and you're doing just to get some basic information, then have a conversation with them. Don't make them go through hoops and send in a resume and all this other stuff, especially if they're a candidate that is not actively looking. Talk to those people find out what makes them tick, and then go from there. Time is running short, so I only have like 1 minute left. Does anybody else have any questions? Somebody asked, where do we go to find the recording of this webinar? I believe that you'll be able to get, I think a recording of the webinar will be sent automatically to everyone because we have all of your contact information. And then the login that you use to log into this, you'll be able to log back into this and see the recording of the webinar. And fingers crossed, we're hoping that we didn't have any latency issues with the stream. Hopefully it worked. Also, podcast. You can get our podcast on iTunes and get additional information about Zweig Group and what we're all about. So thank you guys so much for indulging me for this last hour. I appreciate it. If you need any additional information from me, please reach out at any point in time. And let's see, I guess that's about it. So upcoming webinars, we've got some stuff going on. Time has ended, right? 10 seconds. You can reach me at rwilburn@zweiggroup.com. Thanks very much and have a great day.